Alrighty, hi. I'm not sure what time is it now in the Republic of Guyana, 9 p.m. I'm about to go to sleep. I am tired. Yes, I just set the video, but I just was inspiré, on peut dire, d'inspirer. D'inspirer. Donc, I guess quick of what I am sort of like working on tonight. A few nights ago, I'm still working on it tonight. Yes, I am quite exhausted, and nope, I do. Calling is, but I don't know where or how to do so based on the difficulties, I suppose. But mom is fine, and when it concerns the first, it, it, it quite important, so extravagant that we would probably be perhaps at the same place that we are today based on I don't like you. But it's all good based on the heart of mom, I suppose. But just say that it's safe based on and with I guess just say that it's I guess I feel probed perhaps to faire un arrêt sur ce que j'ai en train de dire, pourquoi je suis fatiguée. De temps en temps, non. Très souvent, oui, mais je pense. J'ai un cerveau et je pense. In other words, il ne faut pas inquiétude of the person, mais that ce genre de mystère would say I. And when it says I, it has kind of a repercussion to that part, which is extremely damaging. Donc, it se dit, oui, mais man ne veut pas comprendre. Quand tu ne veux pas comprendre, you have to leave it alone based on mom only. But it would say, est-ce que mom veut être avec sa fille? Oh. But when she comes back, why? Because she is probably, not in a position to do so. And si elle n'est pas in a position to do so, elle ne veut pas expliquer. She gets extremely, I wouldn't say arrogant, she gets extremely angry. Why? The question qui se pose are questions that even a peasant is capable of responding to never. But it would say, does the heavens consider certain people idiots? Extremely, but it would consider the child more by the lies, constant lies. And the girl had to be able to go to a certain distance to be able to understand that. Now, why would it do so? Well, the way it was programmed did not go as scheduled. In other words, there's extreme fights in there, and they would learn that they are extremely anal. It has to be that way and no other way. Just look there for the moment and you'll see. And in other words, the track mode, the way it comes out, it probably is testing the honesty of man, mostly the family, because once you get the family in a way that is this way, then it could drive that energy and get something. Now, don't put it as Christianity, because Christianity has considered to be abolished in terms of that sin came from there, and that sin should not have been. And when this type of atheists or outsiders does not get what they want, I suppose they would dive there, come back, and seek to kind of get into a way of this type of frauds, bribery, and all this part. It's deep, but mom cannot be afraid of these things because I am the one that was seeked for these things. And seeking for these things would say that it have, should have. It doesn't matter. You seek, and that's where I would say that you accuse yourself, but it's too easy to accuse yourself after the outsider. When I'm talking about the family, I would say that this type of thing says, and so now it's practically saying good night because I am experiencing sensations of which people love to hear me speak. From the time I started little pop talks in the parks in Guyana, I don't quite do that anymore. Things have gotten really badly. I feel like paparazzis are upon me all the time. I cannot get there. I'm practically from where I'm staying at this hotel across the street where I get. The vendor was closed today. I had to get to another vendor, and that's how it probably will go. Now, it is imaginary, those things, and the grandmother didn't really reserve a place for her to stay. Cannot stay with man, cannot even stay with my children, but I know getting there. So, in other words, the fundings would say Christianity. Now, it would say that sometimes you do get hungry for those things based on things that says you have to be and you cannot. It's a no. But it would say this is the time to disobey, and that type of mentality is what France is looking for. And oftentimes if they're seeking to dive deeper, you would say, I did do a gesture and that's yours. So pull in from a man and let them dive into their own. You'll call them conneries or not conneries. So it would say, seek not, and they seek mom via that sourcing. Just say the cherubim here kind of portrays it, and I guess because it's nighttime in the daytime or another day, she will probably get a little more of how this type of cherubim functions with mom. The cherubim girl is what she would discover of herself, and most importantly, the cherubim girl serve her. And the grandmother seemed to not let her go until this cherubim girls would create this type of charts and as to how it functions and how the dynasty of this dad and this dad functions, and why they cannot this way. They cannot abandon it, and they cannot keep her here, for example. But it boils down to something simple: funding, and the funding of which she gets this way. It's not comfortable enough for the heavens to accept a departure yet, and is working on those things in terms of she has become a real bitch, this little one here. So in terms of she likes her little life to be quite penal, meaning that she likes to things. She doesn't get into those things. They don't allow her to get into those things. It's not a shame. She just doesn't. Once you get into it, you disturb her. She doesn't talk for man. Now, if you're seeking those things, then you would have sought the White House. You're not seeking White House, so I am not business. I just know that when I am this type of girl, that I come that way, liking, loving my children, them, and likes being with them and spending time. Now, if the spouse or the thing, it becomes shaky because this part of her allows it not to. So when it allows it not to, it becomes quite complex for the child. So she has to sit and wait. When it comes to age, it can be any age. It can be even 80 years old, based on, I guess, however this part of her reveals, this part of her reveals to just her cause. So they would wait for that stuff. When I'm in this, it's difficult because it's kind of focused a lot. That's why I would say I do think, and I probably think really big this way, in terms of how the money is you're not in terms of how I get that money, but just say it comes in foreign. So when it's foreign, it has to be able to go through the institutions. Not oftentimes, if you're hearing about these type of things of which man has, it occurred in the church from the beginning of time. I don't know what they're fretting about. It's just that the contradiction has become real. Why you have abuse that's type of dad who created a cherubim child this way and cannot to be, and that's what it is. So man has become quite hungry belly, but it's, you could say it's the inner self based on how they chirp. But when you're using these type of strings or these type of crochets, it becomes a little complex. Oftentimes on a tonda you can use a crochet that is very the limit to it is 4G and nothing else. And the 4G would says, well, I am not getting the housing that I could, but how do you get it? You have to work. So yes, starving that part of the mom, and it would say it has its purpose based on how it chops. I would say not man, how it chops and removes things. So those things have to wait. Why? You cannot be following. If that is a mediocrity for things, then this part of her should have not have been a mediocrity. It should have been something that is quite blatant, and it comes with solar. We talked about things that are, the B comes with things that has to, could be gone and we don't know, but it's very fatiguing. Why? Because people, the secrets of the universe has to be based on the cherubims. These type of oaths has to be conserved. She's kind of wrote it that way. So if you're kind of get people, then it attacks them well. So after a while, they probably doesn't want you to be with them. So those things it takes back. But what fatigues is getting that point across, and man decides they don't want to hear it. So if you don't want to hear it, a lot of times these nasty words like la baleine, which is the fork, comes and stabs well. So you have to know I am not that type of woman, the seekers that you're going to come and fatigue. Now, whether you are at 6, 7 races, it doesn't matter who you are, but it seeks to get once étrangers to come to their country. Why? I don't know. They weren't behaved well, so people don't trust you twice. And then they would seek how to deal with things that are, the hotels cannot be dealt with in the States. Why? Because I am not called to live in the States anymore. Why? I should have been told of the cherubims at the embassy of the United States embassies in France from the time I got my first child and second child, and even in Suriname where I had to go through and had that incident with the passport, they should have told the securities that she was the cherubim child. It doesn't matter what combinations she was wearing, she was having rough times, and it will teach them not, it will just scold not, it will leave it alone. So it will says yes, these are the ways that it kind of creates war, because it cannot finish well based on how this part of me decided to be aborted in the United States, aborted completely. And there's people in this country here working in the embassies that seeks underarms, underpanties, toilets, all of these things. So these things could lead to massive imprisonments. Imprisonment leads to massive war, and you have to be responsible for these things. of the how atrocious it has to be. Sometimes it will hit you hard, and you have to say you have stirred up war, and then the girl will kind of calm yes, no, cut off on how I have to get to bed. Now, it would say that Greece is, oh yes, it is, but it would say this is a very far, far, far matter. I could possibly not see Greece for decades based on they are confused. And even though the mom went there, spent time, and they rock, then it would say these are the things that tells that there's the issue would be something of a toilet paper. No, it says that she cannot go there yet. Why? You're rocking. Things has to be of complete peace with you. Droit, and nothing else. Now, France is droit based on how she portrays, but they're not dwell on quietness, and that's a problem. Why? Because I could have used my pills, and I don't have my pills anymore, and this has been quite a few years. I have not my pills now. The apologies, what I'm seeking to apologize, is based on Rome. When I was in Rome, very beautiful city. I toured it and I liked it. It was in a very nice hotel. I would call it suicidal attempt. I would call it provocation, and that mom did. So it would say, could it be stopped based on toilet paper? Perhaps. And she didn't do so. And that will remain a nasty blow against her from this type of father. And that's why men and women will not understand it, why they're seeking to steal, and that she is not married to that man. So she cannot get anything from him. So if she seeks to close down Guyana, she cannot do so. Why? She is not anything to that dynasty. But it would say the grandmother non plus, and could have warned her about it if she seeks to voice her opinion there. Now it would say I don't want to do it, we just cannot see each other. Why? The cherubim girl should have never seen her. And point final, and it would say that part is an apology, why I should have emphasized it, but I didn't feel comfortable then yet. That tendency would say that it probably hits Greece hard, but it would say so you cannot send a message to countries to behave or not to touch the girl. In other words, are you planning those things? Now it is frivolous based on this here, so I'm glad to know that I'm able to get it, and we will probably be reunited quickly. Just let's deal with the heart nicely so that mom feels us, and in other words feels us this way only. So this would say we are not able to do this. Why? It probably doesn't even belong to us. And oftentimes even the cherubim, but it keeps going on and shocks. Even that part could be shocked. So it has well gotten into the brains of I called the universe and of the earth. Why? Because the universe, I call it something that is in the sky, that demands an airplane to get there, or a helicopter, or even the Concords to get there. And in order to get back to Earth landing, you have to put the plane on a descent and gets it to land very nicely. Now, why Europe feels better is because of the landing, how it does it as a curve, just like this type of scorpion. It lands like, and I would say all because of the servo, all of my landings has to be very servo. It cannot be something that crashes in that way. And Atlanta does it, and this is why when I get there, I'm always lost. And oftentimes when I get to Rome, the way I landed, I was not lost. In Greece, I was not, but if it goes to Ibiza, I feel lost to get back to Greece. So oftentimes I do not go back to Greece from Ibiza. So Ibiza would pull now, but it would lose that pull. Now Ibiza was set by, I believe, what's my grandma says, blah, and has been wiped out. So is Monaco directly. So it would say to Rome based on provocation, and then Greece becomes safe and Ibiza has to go. And I cannot say what's the problem with Ibiza, but if it was sick severely, I would have to say it's the part of this type of cream here. So this cream, I found it in the pharmacy in Guyana. I haven't touched it yet, but it would say that it's a devastated Ibiza, and the responsible party would probably be somebody of the church. And when it's of the church, then it has to be dealt with of the church. You cannot seek the cherubim girl servo to deal with that part. And at nights my head spins, these type of things, and it has to pelt it out. But if I'm in a safe place, then this type of descent takes care of it and allows me to be able to focus a lot on how I develop my CC. And I guess the CC is being labeled now as how it will descend to the child. Never. I don't need that. I'm living it. I'm living your atrocity of which you have thrown upon the child. I understand not. You're born that way. You have to stay that way. Cannot impose that, and it's not acceptable anymore. But it would say I'm not quarreling with my kids. I'm just letting them know how Mama has become rowdier based on the constant bombardment of her servo. And then Ibiza will be put aside so we can deal with just Greece and not Rome Sea based on how it descends, because Greece could have a disaster that's creeping up upon them with a way of letting them know that you are not slick enough. And this is how anal they become. So it has to be pulled back and worked on. So with that being said, no contradictions with my descendants ever. So whenever I get overwhelmed, in other words, this is not what is of my G, for example. So it kind of puts it in a wave that is very, this type of Guyanese. America is the same route, even worse, the way it lands now. And Greece hasn't been really tested. They get chopped a bit. Why? Because they cannot seem to be able to seek it in there. So it's probably in Rome. So I'll put that aside based on my long walk, meaning that there's long walks that has to be justified instead of ridiculing her life. It ridiculed, but it did get to a little girl until I was in the hammock in the grandma's bottom house. It wasn't bad until it poured and poured and flooded up. And whatever disaster, I find it in a hotel. It's no big deal. Just you have to back out and don't get close to her. Now, it's not getting better at all. People just pretend. And the pretension is of such, we have things that are peeping out of the person's head. In other words, it comes out. Now, these are default. But if it's peep out, it's a default worse than those. So they're suspecting that you could only deal with that in a mysterious way, and you have decided to go that route, so you have to face it. Now, I would go to bed now. I don't see those things. Why? Because it could not be ready for my family to be able to impel me to get to Greece or to Rome or to Paris. So it would say the axe in Paris does demand this crochet, and if it wasn't liberated from Santa Rosa, well, I will deal with that as a closure and go and non-think.